Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's show. Today, we are going to create our own simple framework for constructing command line interfaces. So, if you have a program that you want to create a CLI for, maybe you needed to download some programs or let the user create some templates for you. Then you can use this simple framework, which is based entirely on decorators, JavaScript decorators. And we're going to code everything in pure JavaScript. So this is a continuation of sorts from the other episode I had about decorators. I'm gonna start by just connecting through SCP to my server, and I have prepared a small project. It's inside MISC, and no, it's not. It's inside of etc. framework. Here we go. So I right click and choose open in editor. That way I download everything, and as I edit files or create files or directories, it will automatically sync with the server through SCP. I'm using the Sociopath SCP client. So as you can see, I have created a package.json file for the project, and I have installed TypeScript. We're not going to be coding any TypeScript, only pure regular JavaScript, but we still need TypeScript as a dependency in order to get the decorators to work, because it's not currently implemented in Node.js, for example. It'll come soon enough. And I have altered the tsconfig just a little bit. I have tried to let as much as possible be the same, but we need some edits. Let me see if I can find it. This one, experimental decorators, must be set to false. Otherwise, we will be using the old standard, the the level 2 decorators. We are using ECMAScript level 3. And that will be enabled by default if you remove this one. And we also need something. If we search for implicit, here, no implicit any, that's only because we're coding JavaScript in a TypeScript environment, and we don't need all these different checks. And then I have a index.ts file where we're going to put our code. I'm going to compile it into a JavaScript file which will run. And we're only going to use one file, and that's this index.ts. So it'll be quite simple that way, but it will be a completely functional working CLI, at least that, or CLI framework rather. But at least that's the idea. I haven't prepared this before and tried it very much. So let's see what we can create together. I have an idea how it's going to be done though. So if you look here, we're gonna do something like this. So if we have a Linux shell like this, bash, one step smaller. And let's get rid of that. Okay. And let's say our command line interface file is called framework. So we can run framework, and then we can run a command framework, and then let's say framework build all, for example. So let's say that's one of the commands. So there are three different entities here. It's us, we are coding the framework, and then there's the programmer who is coding, the programmer is coding the app, and then we have the end user. So the end user is going to use this framework command only. And we are going to code something for the programmer. So we are writing the framework for the programmer so he can add features to his software. Okay. So let's say the programmer has completed his application and he wants to add this CLI to it. Then he does like this. He creates a class which he names build. So this class corresponds to this first like headline argument, and this will be called a controller for us as a programmer. So class build, and then we'll use some kind of tag, like since this is a controller, no, for, by the way, let's do like this. We add the decorator here. And this is a decorator factory function. If you're not very into how decorators and decorator factories work, please check out my other video about that. I will link to it in the description of this video. Okay, so there's only one argument to the controller, and that is its name. So we create a controller named build, and this need to correspond with this. We can change the name of our class. Maybe we need a different kind of syntax for that, ABC or whatever. But the controller, which is connected to the class, will decide what this first command is going to be. I will, however, change this back. Okay, so what does this class contain? We will have different methods. So let's say we have a method called all. And maybe that takes in an argument as well. And we're going to give this method a decorator as well. And we will use, this is the command, let's say. Here we will have two arguments. The first is the controller we're connected to, and the second is our command. So in this case, that's all, this one. So the controller, in combination with the methods command, will decide the beginning of this category of commands. And then we can put anything in here, really, as of now. Let's just console log, let's say hello from all, like this. So this is all the programmer needs to do in order to create a network of commands to this framework, to his application. So let's say we want to add something else. Maybe he needs to be able to do something like framework build dev, maybe. Then he will just create another method inside the same controller. We will tag it with the name of the controller and the name of the individual command, dev in this instance. And then below that we create a method which we can call basically anything, and I will be calling this dev without arguments in this case. Like this, and I won't be doing anything here. I'll just do void 0 or whatever. Alright. As we can see, we do get a few errors here, and that's because we haven't created the actual decorators yet. But the rest is okay. So when the end user types in this command, our framework will locate the correct class with the help of the decorators, and it will locate the individual command and its method, and it will run that method. So quite easy for the programmer to work with. And as you can see, it's pretty inspired by how Nest.js does with the HTTP queries. And that was the idea. I wanted to see if we could do this with decorators for a CLI instead of HTTP request. And I think we can. So how does this work? How do we make it work? We need to use some kind of state which has knowledge about all the different commands and controllers. So the way this works with decorators, we need two different data structures. Let's create one example of a data structure. I will just make it a global variable and call it state in this case. And state will be an object. And it will look like this. So if we have this configuration with the build and all that stuff, then we will have a field called build, and that's a nested object which will contain different first of all, it will have a tag of build, so that's the same as this, and it will also have an entry with the specific commands. So here we have one called all, so we'll have all, that's another nested object, and we will have a tag here as well, all, like this, and here we will also have a field called f, which will contain the method. So this will be a link to the actual method, which is this in this case. So that's basically all we need. We need a way to get to the different names in a controlled manner, and we need a link to a reference to the method name. And of course we do have two methods in our example, which means we will have another one here, and that was called dev, and a link to this function. If we have a state object like this, it will be very easy for us to handle the different commands from the end user. So the question is, how do we build this object out of just different decorators? How can we link them together? Well, in order to be able to actually link the controllers and the commands together, we need a middle step. So we can call this hash table. Okay, so due to limitations in the decorator implementations, we can't create this kind of structure just from this. But if we take a middle step, something that looks like this, having a lot of trouble with my keyboard today, as it seems. So hash table equals, and this will be an array. If we want to create our state object from these decorators, we need to link together the commands and the controllers somehow. But let's say we put code inside of this method we have no way of checking what's our class. You can't connect a method to a class in that direction. So, at least not while interpreting the decorators. So we let it be an array of arrays, like this. And when this is entirely populated by all commands, methods, and controllers, then we can parse through this tree and create our state object. So what's wrong here? Sorry. Okay. So we'll do it in a couple of steps. First, we will create our infrastructure that interprets the commands based on this example state. And when that is working, we will remove all the states and we will focus on recreating it based on the decorators. So we will create these two decorator factories. And then we are basically done. So that's all for this episode. I hope you will subscribe to this so you can follow the next episode where we do all the interesting and advanced stuff. And please hit the like button if you think this video deserves it. Thanks for watching and thanks for today.